everybody. We are going to have a great panel today. I'm moderating. My name is Lindsay Weller. I am local to the DC area. I'm an actor, model, and host. So I am not actually part of the stunt world. So you guys probably know more than I do already. These guys definitely do. So I'm going to be learning a lot today. I'm going to ask some questions as we go, but I'm going to open it up to you guys because I know you're probably eager to ask some questions. So first of all, let's just go ahead and go down the line, and if you guys could just introduce yoyourselves, what you do, where you're from, anything else you want to share. Let's start at the
Okay.
Sorry, Stephanie.
Bring it back around.
It's fine. I'm not nervous or anything. Terrified. Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm actually here with Joey. We are part of a group called Art School Dropouts. We are YouTubers and filmmakers on YouTube, and we make quite a bit of martial arts action films.
Did what she said.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, who are you
I'm
though?
doing it.
You're Joey from Jersey, Joey.
There we go. Right. I'm Joey Min, like I said. I'm the second half of Art School Dropouts. We do, like I said, martial arts action comedy specifically. That's kind of like our niche. And yeah, so the two heads here of Art School Dropouts, right? So yeah.
Nice. I'm ABRA Burkett. I am a SAG-AFTRA stunt performer and also one of the heads of the DC Stunt Coalition. Dylan is the other head.
Oh wow, you introduced me for me. Thanks.
I did.
Usually I speak on your behalf.
I know.
Hi, I'm Dylan Hintz. I'm a SAG-AFTRA stunt performer, originally from down here in DC. I work currently up in New York, primarily alongside ABRA. And I helped co-found the DC Stunt Coalition in 2011, and we're still going strong. So we're back down here with this awesome little opportunity to get to chat with you all today.
Amazing. So I love that we have like two teams here. This is good. You guys can play off of each other. So I think my first question is, how did you guys find this passion, right? So that's more of an individual question. It's not necessarily starting the groups that you now head, or the companies that you now head, but personally, what drew you to this work? We can start, we'll start with you this time, Dylan. We'll rotate.
Oh no, you got
No, I'm sorry.
Now I'm back on the spot. I just
Only
talked.
fair.
Yeah. I would say that for me, I've always loved film. The long story that I always give, and I'll make it short, is that my mom.
We got time.
No. If I say it's a long story, it's like Dr. Zhivago. Okay. The long story short, and I always tell this one, is that I saw Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson in theaters. I was born in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is Batman 1989.
Yeah.
So my mom took me to see it when I was 18 months old.
I love it.
Right. So journey into living in the DC area. Years later, there's the Batman stunt show at Six Flags. I'm like 12. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Then I'm in college.
Yeah.
And Six Flags is at our job fair. And I go, oh, how do I get in the Batman show? And they go, what? We're here for marketing interns. And I go, Batman. So they give me a phone number. I call, I audition. I end up getting into the Six Flags America Stunt Show, which no longer had Batman, but had a Western set, which turned into a pirate set, which gave me the ability to act on that set and learn. And this was still back when there was like Craigslist filmmaking.
Yeah.
So once I was out of college and know that, I just started networking locally in DC with everybody that was making an independent movie. And this was like circa 2010, 11. And from there, I just networked with people and built up the Stunt Coalition. And then that kind of helped me reach out to coordinators. And a couple of years later, on Turn Washington Spies, I got hired by a coordinator named Kid Richmond, got my SAG card, and have been working in the industry since 2013. So been very blessed to have the opportunity to help build the Stunt Coalition, make a bunch of short films, work on a bunch of TV shows and stuff like that. But the thing I'm most proud of and happy with is that I've helped other people get their careers started.
Right.
And so the passion just came from loving action movies, loving martial arts. That's a whole other tangent. I can get into it at a different point. But loving building this kind of community and this kind of art style. So I fell into it.
We gotta give Mom some credit though too. I mean,
we give Mom all the credit. Yeah. Hey, Mom, I'll send you the link. Watch this. I love you. This is your fault. So,
way to go.
Same story.
It's not the same story.
I'm not gonna I let Joey get away with that.
I know.
I'm not gonna let you get away with that.
Oh, I see how this is.
Fair enough. So let's see. Technically I grew up partially in Los Angeles, and I was very obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Was very obsessed and still very obsessed.
She has a tattoo.
Yes, I do. So Buffy was my main inspiration growing up, and that made me want to get both into martial arts and acting. And I decided to really heavily pursue acting when I was living in LA. And I took drama classes, but I never got the nerve up to audition for anything. Yeah. But then I moved out to the DC area when I was 18, and my entire family kind of ended up being out here. It's a long story. I went to college and then got a master's degree. Another long story.
Related to drama.
Lots of tangents. Not at all related to drama.
Yeah.
Not at all. Sociology. And I realized how much I did miss acting though. And I was also getting really into martial arts at the time. So I started looking into ways to get back into acting, and I was starting to audition for things and building all that up. And then I forget exactly how, but the idea of stunts did cross my mind. I was like, oh, I can combine two things that I really enjoy, being very physical and performing. And so that was just kind of in the back of my mind for a while. And then one of my martial arts instructors was talking about how he was helping train up the DC Stunt Coalition, people for the DC Stunt Coalition. And I was like, oh, the DC Stunt Coalition, that sounds really interesting. What is that? And I ended up meeting Dylan, and he convinced me to come to the DC Stunt Coalition. And I started training there, and that was 8 years ago,
Sure.
something like that.
That's fine, we'll go with that.
I've taken some hits to the head. I'm not going to remember the time.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm exhausted right now. So
There you go, Joe me one. I'm
Yeah.
gonna count them.
But yeah, so then you showed up. And
So then I showed up, and
took
then,
over.
well, not like immediately, but then just was training there, or had been training there ever since. And I've also, at this point, been doing martial arts for about 11 years, and just really enjoyed combining, again, those two things. I did do a stint at the Six Flags America Stunt Show as well, 10 years after Dylan did. And that was in 2019. I did 10 months there, the full season. That was a really great experience, really great introduction to performing stunts. And then I moved out to New York in 2020 to really pursue my stunt career at the exact right time. And
Her first on-set hustle was the last day productions
It was.
were running.
technically second onset.
Second
hustle.
on-set hustle.
but
Yeah.
but then I did get my SAG card in 2022. So here we are.
I just wanted to relate to your story for a little bit, for a second, because I actually, I didn't get into the acting side of things till I think started when I was like 29. I did theater when I was a kid, but I went back to grad school. I did all the things where I was like, I think I want to do this. I think I want to do this. I got my grad degree in psychology.
Nice.
So
Yeah, you get it, you get
So
it,
I understand. And then I was like, not that I don't like this, but I'm very bored. So I was like, what the heck? Yes, that was a fun day. I don't know if you had this experience. I told my parents I was gonna like quit everything and try to become an actor, and they were like, what? Like, especially being from the DC area, where that's not
Yeah.
exactly an encouraged path. But anyway, so I empathize with that
I
situation.
appreciate that. And I will say I got a master's in sociology because I got a major in it, and I also minored in art history. I really just enjoyed learning it, and American University had a 5-year program. It's like, why not? I'll
And
take
you went
that.
to American too? I did.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey.
Sorry.
Side notes, everybody.
I went to Salisbury.
But it actually does help. I feel like those degrees with a lot with what you do. I feel like I use mine indirectly all the time. I don't know if you feel that way.
I absolutely do, especially, having to have side jobs too and being able to apply it in different places. I will say sociology has changed the way that I look at the world, and I will
Yeah.
always say that.
Yeah.
So I think it was worth it despite the large price tag.
Yeah, but now
Yes.
you look at the world and you go, oh, can I fall off of that?
Yeah,
A little bit,
But I'm also
little
like,
bit.
why is the world the way it is? I can analyze that and kind of understand that. But moving on.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Side note, everyone.
No, it's-
Joey.
Oh, okay. So definitely not from here. Definitely different, like upbringing than everyone else here. So I grew up watching a lot of kung fu TV dramas, a lot of Journey to the West or like Bride with White Hair kind of thing. And that's I think I always wanted to, like, I was always enthralled by, I guess, yeah, like TV Chinese kung fu dramas. And I think my sifu in China back then actually used to work for Robert Samuels. I don't know if you guys know one of the first. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of like how I kind of got into it. Like my sifu eventually was kind of against me trying to pursue anything that's in like in the performance world of kung fu. But so obviously what I'm doing now is, not what he wants, but he's not here anymore, so it's fine with me. But yeah, basically the thing is, like, basically I think a lot of Asian kids that grew up during the 80s grew up watching Jackie Chan. First movie was like Operation Condor, Armor of God, and just seeing how Jackie just took over the screen and like the way that he would tell stories with his body, with his face. And I already came from a kung fu like family background and stuff like that. That's kind of what I wanted to do. And being an immigrant, moving here to America, it's like the passion never stopped. Even though it's a lot harder to find kung fu movies at that point in time, like during the 90s, it was like impossible, right? So, but everything from seeing Sammo Hung like pop up martial law on TV, I was like, oh shit, that's one of my old idols or whatnot, and just seeing all of that and randomly sometimes seeing my sequel on TV, like for all those other stuff, I'm like, oh geez, so he's here now too, right? So I thought that was kind of crazy, but yeah, I think eventually I never stopped wanting to tell my own stories. Being an immigrant here in America, like I think the stories that I had were different, and in terms of like the martial arts action, I never like. I think I liked more the vaudevillian golden era of Hollywood when they were like swashbuckling rather than the, I guess, like modern day stunts of like, American, like American Hollywood type of stuff.
Mm.
I guess it's like, I felt like, sword fighting back then felt like how they choreographed it, how they did it. Like it felt more Hong Kong than like the American cowboy style of like stunts and action that they brought like, to Hollywood. But yeah, but basically then I traveled around the world. I did stuff in Taiwan. I did stunts in Japan. Got injured, got really sick, figured that I should just not pursue that life anymore. Came back here, but then I think after a while, I kind of quit everything and I did YouTube, and it's the happiest I've ever been. So I'm a filmmaker on YouTube, which is definitely difficult because 93% of people on YouTube are kids like 13 and under. So and something that's doing something very niche like this, it's very, very hard, but it's feeds the soul more than anything. That's why, and that's what we've been doing now for like about 9 years now. And it's like steady, but like it's good, feeds the soul. Right?
Happiness is worth a lot.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. It's
happiness
like
is worth a lot.
it's something I would have done like to the end of my days, really. So it's not about the money anymore, right? Because like I think that doing something, if you continually do something without the money, then there has to be some good reason for it, right? And if it's not
Yes.
to better your craft, then what are you doing it for, right? So
Well said. Love that.
Okay, so my story is a little bit different than everyone else's. I am not a stunt woman. I don't do stunts. I do action scenes. I like do fight scenes in our group and like for other projects. But I like make sure that I make that clear division that I do not do stunts. I think stunts is extremely difficult. You guys do regs. You guys do falls. Like I don't do that. I'm not trained with that. But I've been doing martial arts since I was like 7 years old, and I grew up watching a lot of like old school Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan movies. My dad would just like make me watch them. So I grew up on those. But growing up, I didn't think I would be an actress or making films. I actually went to college studying pharmaceutical and healthcare business
I
at
was
the
a
university.
physicist before all of this.
He went to MIT.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so like graduated. Graduated school, worked a little bit, and like during that time I like modeled, and I was like, you know what, I want to do acting. And I have a background in martial arts, and then just so happens like he had a mutual friend, he connected like me and Joey, and like being in projects, it's like it's really cool to be able to create something and like have a whole team behind it and like see the end product. and I knew nothing about filmmaking, cameras, like angles, the 180 rule, like none of that. And I had to learn everything brand new. And I mean, it's been quite a journey. I have been getting a lot of experience on different sets and like working on our projects. And but yeah, I absolutely love it. I don't use my pharmaceutical knowledge, but I guess I kind of use the business knowledge because I mean, our school dropouts are a business.
I think
and-
that's the difference too. Like you guys being in Hollywood and us doing like indie. It's like obviously like as an indie filmmaker, part of it is also marketing, right? Like you have to market yourself. That's just the name of the game now, right?
Yeah.
So I think
And I feel like a big part is like honestly, most filmmakers do not know how to market their films.
of course.
So
definitely.
like, yes, we may be on a panel where it's like talking about like stunts and action, but at the end of the day, you also need like, you know, a good film and a good story. And it's the filmmaking aspect. And that's what Joy and I, we focus on a lot. It's like the storytelling and not just the action and the stunts. But yeah, I guess that's kind of how I fell into it.
I think that's a great segue into something else I wanted to talk about, which is today's kind of climate. It's so everything's so saturated, right? You can, I mean, it's getting harder and harder to hold people's attention.
Yes.
So how do you guys? I guess this is kind of a general question. You can take it any direction you want. How do you all deal with that? How do you guys go about marketing yourselves? Speaking of, that people have to know how to market. So what are some strategies and advice you would give people in that regard about like how to go about getting work, how to get your name out there?
I think it depends on like what your position is. If you're a stuntman, like your marketing is different than a filmmaker's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Exceedingly.
even if you're like a sound design person, like that's different marketing. You have to like, but at the end of the day, I think having quality content and like
That always wins.
But
putting
yes,
yourself out there, and even if you don't have quality content, to show that like, I mean, we're on YouTube. If you watch some of our stuff years ago, trash, complete trash. Like I'll be completely honest, it's terrible, right? Like you guys can go check them out. We're not shy about that. Go to our like YouTube channel. You guys can go back like 7 years ago, and it's like that sucks.
But I think it's also like the idea, like you have to market yourself towards the market that you really want to, right? Like,
Yes.
and I think as a creative, I didn't know that I wanted to do that because it felt like I was taken away from the creative aspect of like the art that I'm doing. And now when everybody says like, oh, content creation, it's like, it hurts, right? Because it's like,
It's changed.
yeah,
It's changed from creating content to creating
Yeah.
content.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
The drip of it all.
And the
versus-
attention span to hold
Yeah.
somebody now. No one is willing to sit and actually like go on their phone and watch an opening credit to your movie. Like
I'm-
it needs to go like
I'm gonna
there.
play devil's advocate, right? 'Cause, like, I'm just saying
we
like
do
that-
this all the time.
the idea is that, you know, like content creation, it just seems like it's just a product, right? And the thing is like if I'm, you know, putting my heart into it and I'm making a movie, like it's my art, right? It's not a product, it's my art. But I know that obviously to get it to the eyes of the people, there has to be some sort of marketing to make it feel like a product for people to watch, right? But I don't think that attention is short. I think it's just certain people are just more acclimated to a type of thing to watch, right?
So here's a rabbit hole that I could actually enjoy going down with you, I think. Like when it comes to the online content, there's the people that can just scroll through TikTok. I can't necessarily do that, but and there's 15 seconds less, sometimes a minute. And then on the flip side, there's the 4-hour long podcast format.
Yes.
And I'll jam to that way more than I probably should. But then with the content that you're talking about and kind of stuff, the short film world that we kind of grew up in our generation, everything like that, that 10 to 20 minute thing, no one wants to watch anything that's it either has to be terminally short or terminally long.
It's the in-between. The in-between is
The
really hard to
in-between
like.
is where you have to really create a different kind of quality that I think attracts people.
But it's also like, who is your market?
Right.
And I feel like a lot of
Very
times
important question.
filmmakers are like,
Yes.
oh, this movie, it can like, oh, it can reach children, it can reach adults, it's great for all ages, all
Everyone.
ethnicities, all religions, all like, it. You can't view
You
your
have to niche it.
products, your
Yeah.
like your baby, your film like that. Because I mean, we're on YouTube. We do not cater to children. If we did, we
Yeah.
could do clickbait content. It's
I mean,
not
it's
hard.
that's the thing, right? Like, it's like somebody could, like what you're saying about the, the 20-minute thing, people wouldn't watch it, but then you would have somebody make like a 20-minute fan film of Star Wars.
And that could get watched.
Yeah, because
But
everybody
your
already knows what
IP.
Star Wars is, right?
Yeah.
Like you have all these companies that already put in billions and billions of dollars
Yes.
of research and material into an IP that people all over the world already know. That's why most filmmakers on YouTube, they wouldn't make anything original because they know that it's probably only going to get like 5 views, like if they have no viewership or follower count on YouTube. But that, I think that's the problem, right? I think that's how you actually learn how to make your stories and write something, and become just a better filmmaker instead of just like, oh, this is Star Wars world, the Force, the Jedi. You guys already know all of that shit, right? So, or like it's
got a built-in audience.
yeah, it's got a built-in
Yeah.
audience. So like,
you say Star Wars, and
Yeah.
people are like, okay,
yeah, or it's like the next, I don't know, like the anime of the year. It's like it's
Yeah.
the basic
But
bitch
it's
like
like,
way of making.
Who's, like I said,
content.
who's your audience? And I think first and foremost, you should be your first audience and only audience.
Right.
If you are not happy making your film, and like it just doesn't feel good if you're trying to cater to the masses.
Well,
you know?
and so in that way, this is an interesting point. If you're a stunt performer
Mhm.
and you're trying, your number one market is kind of your peers and the stunt coordinators. So anything that you want to put out is to attract,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hi, hire me.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's the point.
And
right?
so
Yeah.
your creativity, and I've felt this way throughout my career. My creativity has been steered in a direction where, all right, this video has to have this many hard wrecks in it. It has to have
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of fight scene. It has to be focused on this. And even for some of the students or the members of the coalition or other business up in New York, it's like, well, we got to make this fight scene this type of fight scene. And so ABRA and I and the Stunt Coalition, we've worked on 48-hour film projects a lot, especially locally here. And what the advantage of that for us has been, or at least for me creatively as well, is that we get dropped the random genre.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And so sometimes that's actually been really helpful for me because it's provoked me to be like, okay, I still have to have an action scene or a fight scene or something like this because because we're producing it through the Stunt Coalition with those people in mind and helping them get real material. But that's provoked me to have to write back to what I love because I'm not a physicist or a pharmaceutical person or a sociologist. I actually did go to college to study film criticism and media production and everything like that. So I have a degree in.
Wow, what an outsider you are here.
I'm so- It's amazing.
I actually have a background in all of
I can talk about Citizen Kane. I can talk about.
What's the meaning of Rosebud?
It's well, that's a spoiler.
Yeah.
Is there a statute of
I
limitations
think
on
at this
that?
point
Can
in
I talk
time-
about that? Citizen Kane struck work? I don't know. Anyways, but my point is like getting to play in different genres. We've tackled through the 48-hour film project almost every genre except for romantic comedy and musical. But we've had like a ton of comedies.
yeah.
And the last one that we did was a mockumentary, and we were able to make it a post-apocalyptic sort of thing, but there's only 2 action scenes in the whole thing. The rest of it was script and acting and dialogue. I was like, it's so nice to live here and get to build everything off of that as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
And to make the action really story driven. We've always
Yeah.
tried to do that, especially with our 48s,
Yeah.
of just creating the story, making the action make sense within the story,
Yeah.
and making the action actually have something to say,
Yeah.
other than just they're going to punch and kick each other.
Which to tie that back to what, you and I, Joey, we're like the same generation in an extent on the YouTube and everybody. So it's like, I grew up with YouTube in the early 2010s watching all the LBP fights.
Oh man, yeah, Manny. and
Like-
stuff, yeah, dude.
And some of those were story driven, but for the most
Yeah.
part, at a certain point, it became, this is my real material, this is my real material. And that's not harshing on any of it because
Yeah,
you
no.
can tell more story through fight than a lot of filmmakers can tell through an
Yes, of
entire
course.
movie.
But I mean that's why he's one of the prominent like choreographers out there now with Vlad everybody. Like they literally like those people that took the idea of what they learned from Hong Kong cinema and they applied it to what American action is. Because like during that time it was like what like Bourne, the Bourne movies. It's like it's not like if you really watch it, it's not really like action scenes. It's like action montages, right? It's like
Yeah.
shake, you see the hands, you see
Yeah.
a pen, someone gets stabbed, and I think it's like the audience are just trying to piece together what happened, right?
Well, and the first one's the only one that has any clear editing.
Yeah, right.
The third one a little bit, but the first one, you go back to the first one, everybody was like, oh, it's so cool. It's kind of choppy, kind of shaky.
Right.
And then you watch the second one, and you're like, they just put it in a salad shredder or something, and just a salad shredder. Yeah, but yeah, and so that kind of happened in Hollywood, and now it's kind of coming back, and the clear Hong Kong style is a little bit more
But I think
evident.
it's not even really Hong Kong. It's like this is, I think now the action in Hollywood is very much like the quintessential American style of action, where it's like there's choreography now, but it's still haymakers, like big moves into like, you know, it's still very brawly in terms of the idea, but now there's more complexity in movements with the camera movement where they show you the clearance, but it definitely was like not the way it used to be, right? Like I guess when like I said, when cowboys were the first stuntmen in Hollywood, they would do all the brawl stuff, like, you know, James Cagney, and they would just kind of throw each other super wide, you know, and then it becomes right, like stuff like that. And but then it's also different when you like I said, like during the vaudevillian like sword fighting era, it's like their choreography. I don't know, I guess I didn't really study up on that, but definitely like how they did it was
well, they were real fencers, some of them, and then because
But
I come from a little bit of that lineage
Right.
to the stage combat world,
Right.
and they cared about story
yeah, but then even
with
they,
the vaudeville and everything.
yeah, but even they had like the whole argument of like, oh, this is like the fencing for movies and like real fencing. It's like the showy style.
But
and I really like the showy style.
But they found a way to connect it. If you watch
Yeah.
the final fight from the Mark of Zorro with Tyrone Power and
Yes.
Basil Rathbone, that's a
Yes.
high level fencer and a guy that could keep up with him, and it's all story driven for the final sword fight.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it still holds up today. It's still as fast
It-
as anything
I
I've
for-
ever seen.
I forgot what movie it was, but it definitely was like this shoot, I have to like look at it. But it's like there are, I mean, there's like a million swashbuckling movies like they're on a ship, so never mind. Yeah, but like definitely it's like it's just a difference of like style, and I think but obviously then that speed of how they were doing in Mark Zorro, it's not like say any Marvel movie now, right? You can like as a person that doesn't do fencing or martial arts, you can clearly see like, oh, they're punching, they're kicking, and like you can see it. But if you watch like an old Hong Kong film, it's like their jabs are like, you know, 3-frame jabs, right? You know, it's fast, it's quick, right? Even their big hits are big hits, and they would have to slow it down like on impact just to show like, oh, this dude like really got hit or something like that. But here, you know, like even Shang-Chi, it's like it's kickboxing with like kung fu poses. It's not really kung fu, but it's still, you know, it's still Hollywood style.
Gone are the days of Snake and the Eagle shadow.
Yeah, exactly, right? No, but then again, I guess that's the point when people think that. I think like those style of movies, I think it's too hyper. It's too like not realistic to people now, and for American action films that, you know, like it would only work in Marvel movies or superhero movies,
Yeah.
right? So that's
That's why there's so many like superhero movies. But also it's like there's also a difference because I mean Hollywood has the budget. I don't know about you guys, but we don't have
Right.
big budgets to kind of
right.
hey, let's do a bunch of fight scenes and shoot it from all different angles. Like everything has to be planned.
But Bollywood has like the same. Like I don't know if people actually been watching Bollywood action films, like with, you know, martial arts and
Yeah, money.
Yeah.
like they have money, and they actually are kind of more into like old school like
Mhm.
Hong Kong films, and you know.
But also some of those productions are bringing people from over here.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
Vlad and everybody.
Yeah,
the same
they're
people.
going over there, and
But,
like, hasn't Larnell been over there a bunch or something?
I'm pretty sure, but I know
Yeah.
that definitely. I know Vlad likes it there because he's like, yeah, I could do whatever I want, right? And
And
they
that's the
And
dream.
If you see some of those movies,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
literally do everything and anything
Right.
they want.
I mean, it's amazing how things seem to always come back around, right?
Oh,
Fashion, right, you were saying, and now we're, the things you were talking about where it started, it seems to come circling back around. I'm gonna take us down a slightly different path now.
Okay.
I would like to hear from the ladies up here because I think I just think it's interesting, you know, people think of stunts and nowadays I'm sure it's better than it was. I'm sure you can tell me, but I think stereotypically everybody thinks men, right? And so I would like to hear, Abra, from you about your experience as a woman. I'm sure you've asked this question before, but your experience as a woman in the stunt world, and if you've had challenges, have you had any issues with that specifically? And if not, that's great, and kind of You can take it whatever direction you want.
Stop looking at me like that. So, yes. I will start by saying I have been very fortunate in the stunt world. When I joined the DC Stunt Coalition, there were quite a few women there training, and that was really awesome to see. And with the other groups that we'd had in New York, lots of women, and I'm so thrilled about that. When it comes to, I'm going to kind of take this in a different direction. When it comes to martial arts, there have been a lot of times when I've been the only woman in a class.
Interesting.
And that has always, I mean, not super bothered me. It just has always been like an odd thing, an odd feeling.
Yeah.
And there's like an extra, there has been an extra, I guess, need to prove myself in those
pressure.
situations. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that's more of an internal thing, or have you actually felt it in the class from the other people in the class?
Depending on the school
Yeah.
and depending on the people there. I've been fortunate to train in a lot of great, really supportive schools with a lot of supportive people. There have been a couple of instances where I went to a school and I was trying to check it out, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is not for me. This mentality is
Oh,
not
okay.
for me, because you're actually pointing out the fact that you think it's so cool that I'm a woman doing this. And I remember one guy said something to me like, it's so cool that you're a woman who's interested in martial arts and not like painting your nails. And I was like, oh,
All right.
okay. And that's actually funny to me right now because my nails are painted.
I was
because
gonna say.
I just did a gig where they had to paint my nails. And I was
Didn't
just-
know it had to be either or,
I know,
but
exactly.
thanks.
So,
I just
What if
don't-
he was like into emo? You're like, you gotta paint your nails for that.
yeah, exactly.
I like my hair. I spent a lot of money on it.
You did. You did. So all that being said, I'm pretty new to the industry itself. I just got my SAC card in 2022, so I haven't had all that many experiences on these professional sets where I've experienced one thing or the other. And there are a couple of things that might have like irked me here and there, where it's like, oh, you're a small woman, it doesn't make sense for you to do the specific thing, so we're gonna call in a guy for that. That happened once, and I was just like, why did you call me in the first place then?
Without even having a shot at it, right? Like, just,
Yeah.
like, just let me. If it's a problem, then we can.
Yeah,
we can deal with
exactly,
it.
exactly.
Yeah.
But other than that, I haven't had much of an issue, and I will say it's really because of the stunt women who came before me who really paved the way for that, for it to be a lot more normalized to be a stunt woman, and not just have men in wigs basically doing those stunt roles for women. And it's an amazing legacy to be a part of.
I'm really glad to hear that you haven't had that many issues. That's
Yeah.
good. Hopefully it's
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
fingers crossed,
crossed.
yeah.
That's great. So I'm gonna, because she mentioned martial arts, we're gonna jump down to you, Stephanie, and your experience with it. I'm sure you can maybe relate, maybe not, to what she was saying.
A little bit.
Okay.
So like I said before, I do like mostly fight scenes. And unfortunately, being an Asian woman that does martial arts, typically I get typecast as the ninja assassin or sexy ninja assassin or sexy ninja assassin prostitute.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it happens. And I'm a small Asian girl. And it's kind of hard when a lot of times I get typecast in that way. Fortunately for our projects, like Joey's very, very adamant about like, hey, we don't need to show you being hot or sexy when your martial arts and your skill can speak for you and to make you look awesome and cool. But unfortunately, I have been put in situations where, for example, myself and our friend Angela, like we were on a feature film production. We were called in because the stunt coordinator knew us. We didn't have to go to rehearsal or anything. And I guess when they see small Asian girls just kind of show up, they're like, oh, what are you here for? So unfortunately, the stunt group didn't really welcome us. We had to sign our papers on the hood of a car. And then when we finally went through choreography with the coordinator, we're like, okay, cool. So we got it. It was quick and easy. During lunch, we decided, hey, let's go to the lead and ask if we could rehearse. And he said, he looked us up and down and he was like, oh, you girls got it.
Mm.
And it's like, really? Like, we just want to practice, be professional. And he's like, no, you girls got it. And what ended up happening, the film got finished, but apparently us girls performed so well, they cut our scene because it made the lead look bad.
Oh my gosh.
So we're like, okay, well, that was a waste. And I mean, other
You
situations.
get paid though?
Yeah, I got paid.
Good.
It was a SAG, it was like a SAG t-shirt. I got like my card or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right,
Still.
cool. But it's like, it's a terrible experience.
Right.
Yes.
And another time where it's like, oh, hey, this is what the project is about. It's like post-apocalyptic, Mad Max style. You're a woman. It's the world full of women.
Yeah.
And apparently the Asians are the bad guys. And instead of just being Mad Max, I had to wear a schoolgirl outfit
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and fight in it.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and it's
That
like,
makes sense.
well, crap, I'm stuck in Vegas. I can't really argue because I want to get home.
Oh man.
So, yeah. So that's why, like,
You're like, well, this makes sense.
Yeah.
This is what I would pick to wear if I was
I
going
know,
into
right?
battle.
Exactly.
Right? This is exactly what I would
but
wear.
that's why,
Everybody
like,
got spikes and shit, and they're ready
yeah,
to fight.
everybody else, it looks like typical,
like
but
Sailor
for
Moon
some
and shit,
reason,
like,
we're
it was
just a skirt.
And this was
yeah.
unironic.
Yeah.
This was just that's what they wanted. They
Yep,
weren't
that's
going
what they
like, oh, we're
wanted.
making a meta commentary on the.
And it
on
was
the-"
like-
no.
It was such a
Yeah.
bad production. The director was just like, "Hey, are you Chinese?" And I'm like, "No."
Oh,
wow.
And it's like, "Oh my
It's
god,
good
do
to
you
share all these things.
do you
because-
speak Chinese?" Like, no. Like,
Wow.
can you do a Chinese accent? I'm like, what? No. What the hell? And then she's like, "Are you
You're like,
willing
"Just
to
stop
learn
now."
Chinese?" It was honestly like the worst production I've ever been a part of, and
It looks good though.
it looked good.
It looks
It did look good. I did get punched in the face twice because the lead, she was a multi-world champion apparently, but she couldn't figure out not to hit my face while she's sitting on me.
Oh, that
And
is
things like
true.
that happens. And I mean, as the person being the bad guy, you can't really say anything.
But that's the thing too, though, with the whole like female action, like Asian stereotypes. Like the fact alone that I come from, I mean, like Hong Kong cinema has like Yukari Yoshima, Moon Lee, like all these iron like action angels since like the 80s. Like there are so many examples of how to make female characters badass, right? Like
I'm really happy, like the progression that it has been like now, but it's still really reliant on the sexual appeal
Yeah.
of the woman.
Mhm.
And it's like she doesn't need to be in tight tights to do this fight scene. Like she doesn't need to show midriff.
Right.
I mean, you could put her in full armor, she could still go badass.
I mean, even like
Come
Cynthia
on.
Rothrock was rocking like
I
long
know.
jeans, and she was like,
Yeah, and
right?
it's badass. Let the action speak for itself.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a woman basically practically naked to do a fight scene. Plus, it's harder on the stunt actors to do falls if they literally have no padding. That's why I don't do
Exactly.
stunts.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, I'm tiny. The second I fall, I'm gonna break something. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, you can't say I'm a stunt woman. I'm like, I'm not a stunt woman. Mad respect to all the stunt women. Like you, girl, yeah, go for it.
Thank you. Mad respect to you too. I've seen your stuff. Like you,
Oh, thank you.
you're awesome.
I try.
So-
He makes me look cool. It helps.
Gentlemen, I'll extend not exactly the same question, but we won't. I do think it's good to share publicly experiences that everybody can grow from. So particularly because a lot of people in the industry are interested in what you guys do, right, and are probably watching or will watch. And so, what is an experience? You don't have to say the name of anything, but an experience you've had that you look back on and you say, "Oh, well, I'm glad I did it, but." If I were doing this, this would be different, or how did you? Maybe a negative experience you've had that kind of helped you grow.
Do you got one off the top of your head?
Yeah,
I'm
let me
still
know.
I'm
I'll
still
give you one. Sorry.
processing.
had
That's
to.
good. Maybe there's not.
Well, no,
Afraid to
there's
that-
plenty, but
Wait, what are you gonna share?
actually, I can put a spin on that I think
Tower
works.
jump.
Yeah. Oh, the tower jump.
No, so I'm afraid of heights,
Mm.
and one of the
This
first
is really
things I did-
funny. Don't say
Yeah,
that.
that's yeah.
yeah, and one of the first
Classic
things
stunt person.
Yeah. because
This
I
chair is too high.
I'm I say I do fight choreography stuff, but like when I was in Japan, like one of the first things they knew it, so and they're kind of rude too. So like
Mm.
yeah, you gotta jump off the Tokyo Tower, like.
You had to get kicked out of. a
Well, that was
window.
the scene, but like it was like 2 shots, but like I wish I know I have like something like behind the scenes, but like I was crying like holding onto the window. Then I got hit, and I was like, you could hear me cry all the way. It's like a bungee kind of jump thing, and like that. I was like young,
And
and
you
I
were
was
like,
Oh
you were
my
telling me
God.
like they were strapping you in, and you're like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not
Yeah.
doing this. Then they did it.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Japan-
don't do that here.
Japan is weird, man. When I worked there, I was like,
I thought you were gonna mention your Christian Bale moment.
Christian, with Jason Statham, he kicked me like 45 times
No.
for that for
The
save or
one
something.
where we were stunt like coordinators and choreographers
Oh, I mean,
on production.
So
and
we were doing like this Hallmark film or something, right? And it's well, I got hired to
Exactly
do it,
what I think of when I think of stunts.
right? Which is funny, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
There was like I think the scene was like basically the lady, whatever Hallmark movie, and they were gonna hit the bad ex because he's a dick, you know, obviously like
Right,
Hallmark
yeah,
film.
yeah.
And and the director wanted the stunt guy to like, you know, he's like just in like a white beater and shorts, right? And so there's no way to pat him. Like, and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't do this, right? And I kept on fighting for it, and so finally, you know, a little bit more, give him a little bit padding. But like the director, people, I don't know, the producers brought in random people that shouldn't be there, and I said like, hey, let's just do this stunt once because I was like coordinating it just like years ago, and I was like, we're just gonna do it once because obviously this is like ridiculous, and I don't want this guy to get hurt. So we did it.
Yeah, not on my watch.
Yeah.
Right? Like if this is my
Right.
job, then if we
Right.
get in trouble, who's gonna
It
fall?
took,
It's me.
it took like 2 hours to set
Right.
up.
Yeah, it took me 2 hours setup, but like obviously, it's you know, getting hit at like 5 miles per hour is completely different from like 8 miles per hour,
Yeah.
all the way to like 15, right?
Yeah.
And that's high end already, right? So we did the stunt. I took it as like, hey, like I'll just drive the car or something, right? And I hit him, and then somebody, I don't like, I think we needed like the audio or something, and somebody goes like, oh my god, it's like someone was making like,
Somebody was
scene.
live streaming.
and someone was like live streaming it on Facebook, like one of the producer's friends. So I Christian bail out. I flip out. Like,
And
I'm
they
like,
kept the audio. They kept rolling, and they kept his audio, and like he's literally yelling at this woman, and also saying like, "Hey man, are you okay? Are you
Yeah.
all right? Okay."
I was rude, dude.
It was like, yeah, it was
yeah.
bad,
But because it's always
and they
obviously
couldn't
now,
keep it. Like they cut the shot, but they couldn't keep the audio.
right? So, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal. But like the idea is like, you know, obviously, some people really sometimes like, you know, a lot of productions they don't realize how much some people do to make your movies better,
Right.
And like this thing alone, and that's why that flipped me out, right? Because you know, right?
It's
That's stupid,
have
right?
that
Like,
audio.
what
No,
am I-
it's on video.
no, I've
Did you hear it?
There was-
flipped out.
Next, so there was a filmmaker next door for I was watching that set of films, and at the end they were asking, you know, what advice do you have for people? And one of the filmmakers said, you know, trust the people that you hire.
Yes.
Right. So I thought that was an excellent point that reminded me. Your story reminded me of that. If you're going to hire people, you need to let them do their job. Right. Their piece of things. You need to trust them when they say yes or no. You know, and if you don't, then you got to go make the movie by yourself. You
Yeah.
can't put
Right.
people in that position.
there's a double-edged sword to that with the stunt side of things because we do tend to get given a lot of responsibility,
Yeah.
Mhm.
very little credit, and then if things go wrong, it's always our fault.
Yep.
So we have to be very good about making peace with let them do what they want to do, let them do what they want to do, and then in the situation, kind of like what you're describing, you know, I've seen people from other departments kind of get in the way, and you have to just kind of
Yes.
and then you have to secretly come up with a solution
Right.
that they don't notice that you're coming up with so that they don't get mad at you, but you make sure somebody doesn't crack their head.
Right.
You know, it
Exactly.
can be very tricky like that. But what I was gonna kind of allude to in terms of like negative experiences, right? Sure, I've probably had dozens of negative experiences
Yeah.
working on productions because a production, especially the higher up the budget goes, the production will be more professional, it'll be more efficient, it'll be more airtight, but then things will get kind of lost along the way in terms of like how much communication you're allowed to kind of give,
Yes.
but how much you have to take, how much patience you have, how much you have to sit back and kind of allow things to happen. I mean, I've been sat in the sun in August for 3 straight hours
Yeah.
without being brought sunblock or told to go sit in the shade or water.
Right.
And I'm not going to say what productions those are on for any reason whatsoever, but sitting there and being patient is one thing. Now, me sitting on that lawn in the sun is one thing, but them having child actors sitting in the
Yes.
sun in that lawn is another. So I'd have to like call over the AD or something, be like, look, I'm good, but so you have to negotiate where the limits are, because they want you to be tough as a stunt performer. They want you to be physically and mentally tough. And that's for anybody in the film industry for the most part, is you have to deal with eating a lot. You know, you have to take a lot. But my appeal as to becoming a stunt performer, and with all that being said, is that, you know, I come from a traditional Kung Fu and Tai Chi background, where one of the first things I was ever taught was to like hold a pose and meditate for an hour.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, and to, you know, do hundreds of reps of this thing and sit in an uncomfortable horse stance for 5-10 minutes or whatever. And you have to learn that mental kind of toughness to be in any industry that has high stakes. You know, the whole thing they'll tell you is like, and this was 20 years ago, it's $1,000 a minute. It's a lot more now, probably, when you're on a film set. So every second of intentionality and patience, but while maintaining your awareness counts. So for me, a large part of the reason why I got into stunts was because I always saw that as a way to test myself, my resolve, and my desire to not just see the project through, but contribute as strongly as I could. So all that being said, you know, there are plenty of days where I'll sit on a set and I just have to chill out for hours. And stunt people, we're all like,
We want
we want
to
to do something. We want to do
Yeah.
something. We
Hurry
want
up
to do
and wait.
something.
The classic line.
But
Hurry up
it's
and
the
wait.
hardest. It's the hardest because we want to just do push-ups or something. We don't want to just do nothing.
sit
But
there.
and then at game time, we only get maybe like 30 seconds to warm up, and then we got to go. But then it's that challenge of being ready for game time.
Right.
And I've always appreciated how it makes me feel closer to the characters that I've either portrayed or had to fight, you know, as a stunt performer or as a fighter in a show or something. Like, life just kind of happens, and these characters are the ones that are always ready for it. So all that to say, it is a challenge, but I wouldn't say the negative experiences outweigh the sense of personal growth and just being alive. Like the industry does have a way of making you feel like you're really alive when you're doing this job. And I think that's a big part of what attracts people like us to it, is we want to get that feeling, and that's what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely relate and agree with you guys. So I'm gonna take it a different way now too. We'll kind of bring it back up. So we went down the negative route.
I was trying to be
Debbie,
positive.
Debbie, you absolutely were. So what is if you guys have a favorite stunt you've ever done or favorite scene you've ever filmed? That is my next question. I'll give you guys a second to
I got kicked
to
out of
think
the
about it.
Tokyo Tower.
So that's it.
Okay.
The most terrifying and
Yeah, and most
there we go.
terrifying. Okay. It
Yeah.
can be it can be the most, it can be your favorite, or it can be most notable for whatever reason. We'll take it that way too.
I'm biased. Like, I love our fight scenes that we do. It really challenges me, and like this the filmmaking process. Like, if I have one advice for you guys, it's pre-production. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Pre-production. Like, can't endorse it enough.
But that's the thing though, like Asian cinema is not about that.
Yeah, I know.
Right? That's like that's the difference, right? Like storyboarding, pre-visiting, even though that's not the question. So
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Moving on.
Yeah.
All right.
It's okay. It's okay. We can.
Oh no, it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
how like pre-visiting storyboarding, that's like an American Hollywood type of idea, when, you know, in Japan and China, like how they do it, it's like, yeah, we'll just show up. We got
We'll
kind of
roll
an
with
idea.
it.
I'm like, what
But it
the
saves
hell?
time and money. It like minimizes any risk and like anybody getting hurt.
I don't care.
I'm
Very
just saying,
American,
but
right?
like for all of us, I mean, like I said, we don't have big budgets. You gotta, save money somehow.
Right? Like
There's a little bit of a balance, right? Because a lot of times, at least, I mean, from my experience too, sometimes the best take is the one you didn't plan,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I guess as long as maybe the takeaway, Stephanie, you tell me if I'm wrong, is be prepared, but also if something, don't be so prepared that you sort of cut yourself off from any type of, or is that not true for when you're filming
I don't
martial
know.
arts?
I think for us, like, it's a little bit different because
Yeah.
we literally like we make a previs for everything. Like our feature film, there's a previs version of our feature film
Okay.
before we even like shoot it, just so we can see what it looks like and just to kind of like speed up the filmmaking process because things happen.
It's budget too. I mean, that's
Yeah,
how
it's
Marvel
budget.
does it, right? Like even before they even before they even hire anything like that. What's that company that does basically all of the previs for Marvel? Like they already made the entire
Silent?
movie. Huh? No. Like it's a previous company. Like they CG everything before and so you watch the movie before they even
Yeah, no, that's becoming like, and I heard that was pretty much how 87 made like a lot of stuff early on is they basically made previses for action scenes to sell to the companies before the movie was even scripted. And
But
they're
it
doing a lot of that
helps.
these
It's like a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of filmmakers today, like when they go to film school, action is the one thing that is not really taught.
Still,
Like,
it was
You
10
know,
years
it's
ago, it's still not.
like
Yeah.
hey,
filmmaking,
it's like action filmmaking in school, like they don't teach you how to do it. They're just like, hey, go and film a fight scene, and you're like, well,
How?
crap, how the hell am I supposed to do
Like,
that?
I guess I'll
There's
hire my
no-
local Taekwondo instructor.
Yeah, exactly.
I-
And
how
it's-
many times have you heard that? I mean,
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
against the
Yeah.
Taekwondo thing.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
'cause
no,
you guys
but-
have done the
Yeah,
Just
whole
like-
gamut.
just like filming like normal dialogue, like OTS shots wouldn't work
it doesn't
in a
work
normal
for
fight scene unless like it is, but like it's a little more different, right? It's not just like
I found
Yeah.
it's harder to choreograph over the shoulder sometimes than it is to choreograph wide.
oh yeah, I mean
Just because
definitely.
everything has to read in a very specific
Right.
way. You
Yeah.
know?
It's there for a reason, but how
Yeah.
people sometimes they do like action film where it's like they have a person like just right in the center, but it's an OTS over like a stuntman. But it's like you have this empty negative space on
Yeah.
the right side or left side. Like dialogue doesn't work.
And
with
plus,
action.
like, I mean, for a lot of filmmakers that don't have experience like shooting actions, it's like you could be doing the same fight scene like 100 times.
Yeah.
Just because they're trying to get a wide and get like coverage because they
For sure,
don't
yeah.
know
They don't know
what
what
they
they're
can
looking
use
for.
and what they
Yeah.
can cut in with. But it's like that takes time. And plus you run the risk of like, hey, if you don't have a double and you actually have the lead, if that person gets hurt, then you have to like,
Right.
wait, spend another day, it's more money. Like there's so many things I could like literally go into about like
Yeah, like top
filmmaking side.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's extremely important to have previses, pre-production. Like it's like not only for the production team to like, I guess like, hey, this is what we're shooting, but it's also for the talent and everyone on set to understand like this is what we're shooting.
Right.
This is what we're working on right now.
And
There's no
that's
confusion.
that's why stunt performers, especially in the last couple of decades, have basically had to go from just being, performance athletes to being filmmakers ourselves,
Mhm.
because we, especially now that the cell phone is a thing, but your DSLR cameras and your mirrorless and everything now too is we're constantly shooting and editing if we want to keep up. We have to. We go back to the marketing question at the beginning with all the videos.
Putting out
It's
content.
but even if you don't put it out there, you have to be constantly shooting, editing, looking at what works. I mean, I've learned more, like I was talking about the OTS thing. I've recently been working with a business partner in New York who their primary style is all old school, over the shoulder, like basic. Like I'm talking like tight, medium over the shoulder fight choreography for actors.
Oh,
Like actors that don't fight.
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
yeah.
And so watching how to build that level of just, it has to be simple and it has to work so we can
Right.
get the actor out of here and move on, is like totally changed my perspective on how to design action
Right.
with a lot more actor face and a lot less action face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Right. So when I got to finally start seeing that magic occur, I was like, okay, I want to, because I started from a more Hollywood sort of style of choreography, modern Hollywood martial arts choreography, and to bring it together where the acting and the action is a lot more intercut, the way that you could get out of the Hong Kong cinema, because the actors were so high level, they had their theatrical backgrounds, they knew how to perform and fight. A lot of stunt guys don't have a theatrical acting background, especially in America. So to get them to have the game face, the acting face,
Yeah.
it's trickier.
Like the Hong Kong thing with people like their entire life was devoted to that performance. And so it's kind of hard to find that now because, I mean, even now, like you have people that just did like a year of like taekwondo, and they're like, I'll be a stuntman.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah. All right, you can do it. Like, and it's silly, but that works, right? Because I think that's how it is now. Like what you're saying, it's a lot easier to fake that type of skill set when it's like your stunt guys fall out of frame and like the frame just stays on your main hero all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I get it.
We are going to take a quick second. We have a raffle to do.
Hey,
Are you sure you got a ticket?
there you go.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I've been-
No, you're the lucky one. You always pull the lucky stuff out of the hat, right?
Tickets out?
That might not be true.
Let's see. 3987904.
Could you read that again?
All right.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we got
What even is what are we winning
I don't, a goodie bag.
goodie
of sorts.
bag?
Look at that.
Can I get a prize?
So,
here? No, you are the prize.
so I feel like I'm losing track of time here, so I want to make sure we get to some questions that you all have. So does anybody have questions for these guys up here? We covered a lot of ground. Yes.
Any plans for the future?
Filming,
Pay my rent.
constantly filming.
No,
Constantly training.
the annihilation of all things artificial intelligence. I don't know what we're talking about here.
We're working on a feature film. It's in post-production.
Oh, so yeah. If you guys don't, obviously, we said we're Art School Dropouts. You can check us out on YouTube and stuff like that. And we have one of our feature films up on Tubi and other places where
Yeah.
we don't get paid from because,
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, we're working on a second feature film, and it's I think it's our. Most of it is done in VR. I don't know how to
it's
explain it. Like
93% done in VR. It's
Like
very
some-
different. I
trying
mean,
to take technology and moving
trying
it
to-
everywhere. It's cheap mocap. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
it's cheap. mocap.
And what else is happening with this? Oh, we're gonna be at the HBO Urban Action Showcase
Yeah.
Film Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so are we.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna see you all there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
We have like a film blocking panel.
Yeah, if you guys
Yeah.
just said, please go
Yeah.
check it out. Yeah.
Go check it out. We'll be there all day.
Other questions? Yes.
This is not about fights, but specifically about like stunts or wrecks or falls. When you're going on to an indie production versus a larger production, whether you are a stunt coordinator or if it's like an indie production where you're just a stunt performer and they can't afford a coordinator, how much involvement do you have working with the director to build the shot? Were you coming in and just like, this is the shot, this is what you're doing?
It depends.
That's you guys.
You are basically, if you're coming in as a performer doing a stunt and you don't have a coordinator, you are self-coordinating basically. So you hopefully have a director that is receptive to that and receptive to what you have to say in terms of this is how the shot should be or how I feel this will best serve your film and how we're going to accomplish this as proficiently and safely as possible. Like if there's a pad, hiding the pad in the shot, maybe doing it as a 2-shot instead of making it a 1-er. I did coordinate for an indie film, and I did end up getting into a bit of an argument with the director. And I wasn't self-coordinating; I was actually coordinating for somebody else, and I was having her do the stunt. And the director wanted just a 1-shot of her. It was a rigging thing and based a hand pull, and her flying through the air, hitting a table, bouncing off of it, and then hitting the floor. And he wanted it all in one. And I said, she's not wearing any pads. The table is way too hard for her to hit at that speed. We have to break this up. And we got into a bit of an argument, but because I knew more about it and because I was caring about safety first and foremost, we went with what I had suggested and what I said we basically had to do. So sometimes you have to really advocate for yourself, especially on these indie sets where they don't necessarily know. And they have this idea, maybe like this really grand idea, and you have to step in and be like, but that's not safe. You're also not paying anybody enough
Yeah.
to take this damage.
That's always the big one. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's, keep going.
I always recommend following a basic like tier structure that I like to put in is, my triple S system: safety, story, style. You approach it with the safety in mind first. Then you make sure you cover your story. Obviously, the story comes first, but the safety has to come as like the expectation.
Mhm.
Then the style is, well, how crazy do we want to make this? Well, how crazy you got in terms of money and safety and
Yeah.
time and prep and all those things. If I work for somebody and they want to go cheaper, I go, great. It can go as cheap as you want as long as you give me total control, because we're not going to
Right.
screw around here.
Mhm.
And that's why once you get into the industry and they pay you a lot of money, you have to be better at negotiating how to keep the expectations set in a way, because at the end of the day, we don't want anyone getting hurt. A stunt performer knows they're going to take bumps and bruises. They know they're going to walk home. Let's not say with a limp, but
Sore.
I have a
Sore,
good doctor.
sore.
Okay, I have a
Yeah.
good doctor, but you have to come in with the mindset that things are going to be adjusted for safety. And if you walk in as somebody that I want to be a stunt coordinator, I want to be a stunt coordinator, I want to be a stunt coordinator, so you go, I'm going to give the director whatever they want. They're going to love me
Yeah.
for it.
Mhm.
That is going to end badly. So whenever we encourage anybody working with like the DC Stunt Coalition that wants to go out there and start working on indie films, you just have to watch yourself, and whoever you're working with, if it's a student film, if it's a buddy with a backyard, you have to just tell them, I have this limit.
Mhm.
What can we do within this limit? And how can we serve the story with it and still make it maybe even look kind of cool?
Yeah.
Because you want it to look cool, but it has to be safe first. And it has to tell the story we're going for, so that you want to keep it in the edit and everything.
I was going to say, I'm not even a stunt person, and I found when I've been working on certain projects, sometimes I have to remind people that I'm a human,
Yes.
right? I am going to, no, I can't get rid of my goosebumps. I am cold,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Right.
I'm sorry about that. Not a robot. Like, it's going to be human things that happen, and they have to be understanding. So I can't imagine it must be like 10 times worse for you guys. People think you can, right? The expectation to handle even more, I think, must be there.
Yeah.
It is. I work motion capture a little bit these days on interactive, and me and some of my cohorts, we all talk about how they'll ask us to do some really crazy stuff
Yeah.
that we don't know if we're even capable of doing it. But in the room, in the volume, as it's called, sometimes they'll give us a challenge of how to move this little bit, how to move that little bit, because it's direction over and over and over and over again. And when you learn that you can kind of access some of that internal skill level, it's actually really cool, and again, that kind of comes back to just being able to temper yourself. And sometimes this job just pulls the best out of you, and that's, I think, like with your action performance and everything like that, and the creativity that you guys are able to put out, it's just like when you're hit with a challenge, it's like, okay, we're going to not just meet that challenge, we're going to surmount it,
I think it's any creative that really wants to do better in their craft, though, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap this up now. I know we're a couple minutes over. I've just enjoyed talking to you guys so much. But so I just want to leave everybody with this, because we might have some people who are aspiring, some people in the room. Quick piece of advice that you would give to somebody who wants to kind of dive into that industry, and then let everybody know how they can follow you guys and follow your work.
Oh, okay. Like I said before, pre-production, previs, be prepared, have everything planned. And you can find us artschooldropouts.com. You can find us online. Like, it's everything art school dropouts. We actually do have a fight scene tutorial series, which is more based on like how to create fight scenes rather than like the stunt aspect of it. So our course usually like helps filmmakers like basically make their own fight scenes safely, efficiently, and within whatever budget you have. And
that's great.
all of our previses are on there. So a lot of times we have some of the people would actually use those for their films.
An example.
And then
Good.
like they can take that and adapt it to like whatever style that they would want. So
Great.
yeah, basically.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Be nice. Since we're in this industry where we need everyone and each other to like actually make something, be nice. No matter what it is, local, professional, people will remember you if you're a kind person. And you will get more jobs that way, trust me.
I love that too,
Right.
especially because I know like in our industry there's just
Oh yeah.
so much like backstab.
Dude, it's so grimy, honestly. And I think in any like visual where it's like, your how you look is kind of like you're married to some people. It's
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that's great advice.
Yeah.
ABRA?
If this is something that you want to get into, train a lot, find a group of people. It doesn't have to be our group, and just train with them and film. Film yourself from different angles, learn how to film this kind of thing, and have fun. I mean, sure, the grind is part of it, but also the whole point of doing it is that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
You should be enjoying it. So the main takeaway is just, at the end of the day, do something that you enjoy. And if this is something that you want to do, then just try and have as much fun with it as you can.
And how do people follow you in your work?
Oh, right. Aubrey Burkett, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and those places. DC Stunt Coalition, we have a Facebook page. We technically have a website.
No, the website's great.
Is it great?
Yeah, because it's the contact form.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
so
that's how they
there's-
get in touch with us without calling me every 5 seconds, going like, "Hey, DC Stunt Coalition, how do I do stunts?"
They still do that. They still do that. Though.
Send me an email.
With the same context, like, hey, DC Stunt Coalition, how do I do stuff? But in an email.
That's right.
As long as it's in writing.
Yeah.
Then I can take my
Okay.
time.
We have a quick reply that we can
Yeah.
get things rolling with. Yeah, Facebook. We also have a YouTube page, and we have half of our 48s on there maybe, and a bunch of fight scenes and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
And last but not least.
do I still give advice?
If you'd like to.
Oh, I shouldn't. Be ready if you want to pursue stunts. Let me give the hard answer. Don't half-ass it.
Yeah, whole asset.
Yeah.
Whole
Both
asset.
cheeks.
I know.
Oh, that's already my faves column.
I know so many people that go like, I don't have the money to go to this training. I don't have the. It's like, I understand. None of us do.
Yeah.
But if you want to make this a thing, you have to be ready and willing to invest your entire life into it, at least for a short amount of time.
Mhm.
And so this is one of those kind of do or die sorts of jobs, in the sense that you have to give a few years of your life completely to it. And then if you don't like it, you can say that you tried. And that's totally cool. I also want to make sure that I give the advice to people as like, it does not have to become your entire identity if it ends up not being the thing that you actually thought it was for you. I'm later in life. I still do stunts. I am still a stunt performer. I've also found other passions. I work at a physical therapy office now, and that's another side of my life. I love both things. But if I were to go, I can't do that other job because all I can do is stunts, I don't know what would happen. But
Yeah.
what I can tell you is that for the first few years of my career, anytime I made money on a job, a significant amount of money, guess where that money went back into?
Yeah.
Training,
Yeah.
traveling, hustling, networking, and be prepared to make that your entire economic system for a while. Because a lot of people, like I started saying this, they will think, I'll just dip my toe in. You can't. Not with this, not with this life. This has to be full foot, full leg, full
Yeah.
ass,
Yep.
full ass,
Both
cheeks.
all the cheeks, all four.
Yeah, there we go.
And how do people follow your work?
Like how I was saying, it's the DC Stunt Coalition. So if you're in the DC area, dcstuntcoalition.org is our training business here. If you're up in New York City, we have our own other training program with our other buddy, Jamie Woj. That is the Action Hero Academy. If you look us up, it's actionheroacademy.nyc, or on Instagram, actionheroNYC, which is, we mostly train actors there, but if you want to do some basic stunt work, we also do that as well. And then our other business is Saga Action Arts, which is primarily for martial arts action training for private lessons and everything like that. And yeah, you can find us through all those little venues.
Amazing. And again, I'm Lindsay Weller. You can find me, Lindsay K. Weller. Pretty much if you type that in, it's the same across all platforms. Website, Lindsay with an E. Instagram, IMDb. And thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Yeah.